forging knives. So warped or bent steel. So most steel comes fairly straight, but usually fairly is not good enough. And before we start working with it, it's great to have it be perfectly straight as we can get it. So I've bent this piece of AEBL pretty badly. It would probably never come that way. But I know what you're saying. AEBL never warps. That's a joke, because AEBL warps all the time, in heat treat anyway. But, and that's a whole nother story. This is just getting it from the annealed state straight. Now you can put it in a vise with pins and all that good stuff. That works. But I've found it's just faster to do it by hand, and you can get pretty darn close, if not perfect. And if you do it enough, you'll get better at it. So what I do is I'll set up a bright light behind my piece, and I'll look underneath of it. Now obviously this is exaggerated, but you can obviously see light under the piece. So what I'm going to do is at the apex, so where the curve comes up and basically in the center of our warp, I'm just going to mark that piece on the concave part, or convex part rather, of the curve. So basically the apex is the very top of it. Okay, so I'm just going to mark it right there. All right, I'm going to try to do this where you can see what I'm doing. This is laid out on a granite plate. It's just a cutout from a sink. A true surface plate's probably better to do, but this works well for me. So I'm just going to lift this piece up, and I'm going to push the piece down, and I want to bend it, about halfway through. Now I've got one end here. The apex is right in the middle, and I'm holding it on the other end of the warp. And I'm just going to push it down, and I want to bend it about halfway, about basically the same distance. So if we were deflected by half an inch, I'm going to push this down an inch, so it's going to deflect a half inch the other way. All right, so just push it like that, kind of let it hold a little bit, and we'll lay it down and check it. Okay, so that looks a lot better already. All right, and it's still just a little bit, if you can see that or not. Yep, see right here? You can see light coming through. So it's much better, but I'll just give it another bend. So we're already pretty darn close. So I'm just going to another bend. Okay. And to me, this works a lot better too if you've got multiple bends, because setting up the vise with the pins and the pins falling out and everything is kind of a pain. So we are back to flat now. We're good. So now if you have multiple bends, I start at the worst one first and then work my way out. But this is now flat. Flip it over. It's flat. So we're ready to go. Now, if it came warped like that, it could be because of issues when it was made. I don't know. A good idea would be to do a normalization cycle. So bring it up to subcritical, and then, well, it depends on the steel. So you're going to basically take it up to subcritical and let it cool slowly over time. It just reduces the stresses in it. Because if it came warped, chances are, well, it could very well warp back the other way, especially when you start grinding it, and that's no fun. Because straightening out warps once you started grinding is a lot harder because you've changed the geometry of it. You're not dealing anymore with two parallel surfaces, but it's obviously easy to tell where the warp is and how to correct it. So doing normalization cycle is probably a good idea on something like this. But that's it, if that helps.